Chair lays that on second reading, SB 339. Clerk will read the bill.
SB 339 by all type relating to the medical use of low THC cannabis and the regulation of related organizations and individuals, requiring a dispensing organization to obtain a license to dispense low THC cannabis and any employee of a dispensing organization to obtain a registration, authorizing fees.
Chair recognizes Dr. Zerwas and Mr. Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Before we embark on the debate and discussion on Senate Bill 339, I want to take a moment to recognize up in the gallery today a group of people who have been up there all afternoon, a number of families who have been very diligently engaged with the House Bill 892 and Senate Bill 339, which is the one we're about to take up. I'm proud to be a joint author on the Senate bill as well as a joint author on the House bill on what I think is really a very, very important piece of legislation that's going to open up access to the CBD oil for people with severe, intractable epilepsy. I want to thank these people that are here today. I'd like to ask them to stand so that we can recognize them and welcome to your Texas House of Representatives. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is the group from the Cafe Texas, or Compassionate Access for Epilepsy here in Texas. Some of the names that are up there are Karen Whitty, Cheryl Kubala, Nina Octis, Katie Sanders, Morgan Rubin, Sarah Jane Toney, and my constituent Terry Carricker. Thank you for your work in this legislative session, and I think we're going to turn things over to Representative Clegg.
Chair recognizes Ms. Clegg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, Senate Bill 39 is a companion bill to my House Bill 892. Senate Bill 339 makes low THC cannabidiol oil available for treating patients with intractable epilepsy. Currently, 14 states have advanced CBD legislation. Intractable epilepsy is a seizure disorder that has been treated with at least 2 anti-epileptic drugs at maximum dosages without relief from seizures. Approximately 149,000 Texans have intractable epilepsies, about the number, just shy of the number of people that live in each of our legislative House districts. Dravet and Lennox-Gastaut syndromes, children suffer dozens, even hundreds of seizures per week. Just since the start of session, 2 children with intractable epilepsy have died as a result of extended seizures. Few FDA-approved anti-epileptic drugs are approved for usage in children. No FDA-approved anti-epileptic drugs are available for Dravet syndrome. CBD oil is a derivative of low THC cannabis, defined as less than 0.5% and greater than 10% CBD by weight. It has few side effects. It also is not something that you can get high on. It has no street value, so it has a low risk of abuse. It's shown remarkable promise. A pharmaceutical version is already in development, but many years away from widespread usage. This is not something that can be smoked. It is ingested orally. I've worked closely with the Epilepsy Foundation of Texas, patient families, and other medical specialists from around the state. My bill places strict controls on the use of CBD oil, DPS oversight and regulation of licenses, and the Compassionate Use Registry. Only licensed physicians who treat epilepsy and are certified epileptologists or neurologists can prescribe CBD oil once they believe it to be in the best interest of the patient. Patients must have another physician concur with the original physician's prescriptions. Patients must be permanent residents of Texas. In closing, SB 339 is not a recreational marijuana bill. It is not a broad medical marijuana bill. It is very narrowly drafted, very focused bill designed to give people with intractable epilepsy another option when others have failed. We want to add one more tool to the treating physician's toolbox to fight these disorders.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. King, for what purpose?
would the gentlelady yield for a question?
Ms. Click, do you yield for questions?
Yes, I'll yield for a question.
Lady yields.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling with this a little bit. So this is a very legitimate question because I'm very sensitive to families that have given very sincere testimony and expressed very sincere concerns. Is there anything in Texas law that prohibits? Well, let me rephrase that. Can the FDA approve this independently without any action from Texas? Can it be approved as a pharmaceutical today by the FDA?
There's another product right now, Marinol, that's a synthetic version of THC, which is also another component of the cannabis plant.
So is the FDA in the process of evaluating this? Do they have trials going on or anything
There
to
are
approve
trials that are going on presently, and it would be probably 8 to 10 years before this would be available.
Are you aware of any other time that we have, as a state, gone around that FDA process and approved something for pharmaceutical use for treatment, or is this a first time?
There are a variety of compassionate use parameters that are out there that allow that to be made available.
Okay, so there are things currently used in Texas where the legislature came in advance of the FDA and said, we want to allow this. So that's currently going on today and other things?
One of the other things is something called off-label use. The children that are currently receiving seizure medication right now, many of those seizure meds are not FDA approved for children.
Are those things that and I'm really just trying to make sure I understand this. Are there, I'm trying to find out if we've done things like this before. Are there times that we've gone as a legislature and approved things to be used in medical treatment that the FDA has not approved?
Yes, and one of the things that we did earlier this session is we passed legislation for the right to try.
Right, okay, correct, that's a good point. And are we hearing from, because I'll be honest with you, I haven't. I've heard from families, but I haven't had anyone in the medical community tell me that they need this. So can you tell me about the medical community and who's been coming to you, if anybody, and saying they need this?
If you look at the letter that I presented in the member packet, there is a letter from epileptologists from around the state. They were who came to me after last legislative session and felt like this was a very promising new treatment for these resistant forms of epilepsy.
Okay. Who will be able to prescribe this? Will a general practitioner or a...
No, only a neurologist or an epileptologist will be able to prescribe this. And it actually takes the recommendation or of two, not just one, but two.
And where will they get it at?
The legislation sets up a framework of dispensaries that they would be able to get that. There would be a minimum of 3 in the state.
And are those like compound pharmacies, or are they like a regular pharmacy, or?
They are not like a pharmacy, but they would function in many ways like a compounding pharmacy, although they're not a compounding pharmacy.
And is it your intent to try to keep amendments off of this?
Yes, sir, it is.
Some of us are very concerned of people being able to bring things in from Colorado or other states where things are legalized that we're not trying to even talk about here.
The problem with someone trying to bring in products from another state is that would violate federal law. And so many of the states that have passed their own CBD-only legislation have prohibitions from taking that across state lines.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Simmons, for what purpose?
I'd like to ask Representative Click a question.
Lady yields.
Yes.
Thank you, Representative Click. Appreciate that. You know, I had two of my children had seizures when they were younger, and we were able to get those under control through medication. So I can empathize a little bit with these families that have this. Would you explain again, though, the specific type of seizure that this is going to be used for? I'm not sure I understand exactly what that type of seizure is. Intractable
Epilepsy, those are patients that have tried 2 pharmaceutical products and they're still not well controlled. Many of these children, particularly with Dravet and Lennox-Gastaut, have some hundreds of seizures each and every day. The families must carry rescue medications, oxygen, pulse oximeter, some of the meds that they have to give in the event that they have a seizure or multiple seizures that do not end, or things like Valium. These are very dangerous. These children.
My mom, oddly enough, at age 70 began having seizures. And while she doesn't have them very often, they have not been able to be controlled yet by medication. So I understand where we're coming from. I think like a lot of members of this House are concerned a little bit about the camel's nose under the tent. I am firmly against legalizing marijuana at this stage. I'm firmly against legalizing just normal, what one would think normal medical marijuana. And so help us understand how this can prevent, because Colorado in some ways started similar to what we're doing, is what some of the information I've heard, maybe not. So explain to me how you think we can keep this in the box so that we don't promote the moving, on down the road.
We have a very narrowly drafted bill, and I share your desire to not become a state where we have legalized recreational use or a broader medical statute. Our legislation is very narrowly focused to just one condition, intractable epilepsy.
So it's not for multiple sclerosis, which I know in some cases people swear by marijuana to help them with that as well, but this is not for that. It's not for cancer or anything like that. It's for this one specific issue.
It is for intractable epilepsy, and you have to have the recommendation of 2, either neurologist or nephrologist.
Tell me again, how will it be administered? Is this an oil? I remember we went to something in the interim where the people spoke about it.
It is administered orally. It is not smoked. In fact, the law that we are trying to pass prohibits it from being smoked.
Right, and this bill also includes licensing of the people that are dispensing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there is a state license and oversight.